Hi! Today we are going to be reading a little more of The Heroes of Tolkien by David Day. So I introduced this book on the last video. If you want to know a little more, just check out my channel and you'll see the first video in this series and you'll know a little bit more about the book and you'll be able to start from the beginning. If you've already watched that one or you just want to start from the second part, then here we go. So, moving on from the introduction, we're in part 1. Heroes of the Valyrian Ages, the Valar and Maiar. As I said before, I do apologise if I get any of the pronunciations wrong. In J.R.R. Tolkien's tale of the creation of Arda, the world, the Ainulindale, included as the first part of the Silmarillion, we can see biblical language and themes that add undeniable grandeur to the events. In this creation tale, we also see that, behind the simplicity of appearances, Tolkien's conception was of a single divine entity, not far removed from the Judeo-Christian God, the Hebrew Yahweh, often Latinized as Jehovah in the English-speaking world. Tolkien's Eru, the One, known to the elves as Ilúvatar, the Father of all, is certainly comparable to Yahweh, Jehovah. In the beginning, Tolkien tells us, Eru Ilúvatar's thoughts took the form of entities known as the Ainur, or Holy Ones. These vastly powerful spirits are comparable to Judeo-Christian angels and archangels. In the timeless halls, before the creation of the world, Ilúvatar commanded the Ainur to sing in a celestial choir, and we are told this angelic music revealed Eru Ilúvatar's vision of what was and is to come. The contribution of the Judeo-Christian tradition to Tolkien's imaginative writing is profound in its moral implications. However, in most other respects, the early Judeo-Christian world is very unlike Tolkien's. For although the inhabitants of Tolkien's world do not quite worship gods, their beliefs are very much closer to the pantheism of the ancient Greeks, Romans and Germanic peoples than they are to the fierce monotheism of the ancient Israelites. And here we have an accompanying illustration. Eru, the One. Now, the second section. The powers of Arda and the classical pantheon. In the second part of the Silmarillion, known as the Valaquenta, the early history of the heroic lives of the great and the good among the Ainur is revealed in the wake of their entry into the dimensions of time and space, and their taking on of physical forms in the newly created world of Arda. These newly transformed entities were made up of two orders, the Valar and the Maiar. These, as Tolkien fully acknowledged, strongly resemble the gods and demigods of pagan European mythology, most especially those of ancient Greece and Rome. The Valar and Maiar are the ruling powers of Arda, and in describing their arrival, Tolkien attempted to lay the foundations for an entire mythological system. His hope was that this system, which he described as ranging from the large and cosmogonic to the level of romantic fairy story, would be convincing enough to be comparable to the mythological traditions and literatures of European nations. Tolkien left somewhat conflicting estimates of the period of time during which the Valar and Maiar were the sole or primary occupiers of Arda, but certainly the span between the creation of Arda and the awakening of the firstborn race of the elves was not less than 20,000 years, as humans now measure time. These Valyrian ages saw the Valar and Maiar work tirelessly to shape the physical world of Arda and to bring forth and nurture many new life forms. The king of the Valar is Manwë, the lord of the air, who rules from his throne and palace, Ilmarin, on the top of Tanikitil, the tallest mountain in the world. Manwe is very like Zeus, whom the Romans equated with Jupiter, the king of the gods, who ruled from his throne and palace on top of Mount Olympus, the tallest mountain known to the early Greeks. The eagle was sacred to Zeus, as it is to Manwe, and both are fierce, bearded storm gods. Manwe's mightiest brothers, Ulmo, the lord of the waters of Arda, and Mandos, the lord of the halls of Mandos, or awaiting, had direct counterparts in Greco-Roman mythology. Ulmo shares most of his attributes with Poseidon, the mighty Greek god of the sea, whom the Romans knew as Neptune. Both take the form of giant, bearded ocean lords, who are also masters of earthquakes and ride foaming horse-drawn chariots on the crests of tidal waves. Mandos, the doomsman of the Valar, who is also known as Nemo, shares many characteristics with Hades, the Greek god of the underworld, whom the Romans knew as Pluto. Both ruled over a place in which the dead or awaiting spirits abided in a confined kingdom, and both had foreknowledge of the fate of mortals and immortals alike. Among the Valerian goddesses, Yavanna, who is the queen of all growing things, and her younger sister, Vana, who is the queen of the blossoming flowers, have direct parallels in the Greco-Roman pantheon. The Greek goddess of the harvest and agriculture is Demeter, the Roman Ceres, while her daughter is the goddess of the spring, Persephone, the Roman Proserpina. Vada Elentari, espoused to Manwe, is primarily comparable to the Greek goddess Hera, wife of Zeus, or the Roman Juno, because of their rank as queens. However, they are dissimilar in that Hera is the goddess of marriage and family, while Vada is the Vala of starlight. Hera is jealous and vengeful, while Vada is loving and merciful. In this respect, she actually shares more attributes with Asteria, the Greek deity of the stars. In Tolkien's Valerian god Ahole, the smith, we have a counterpart of the Greek Hephaestus and the Roman Vulcan. Both are capable of forging untold wonders from the metals and elements of the earth. Both are armourers and jewellers to the gods. Other Valar comparable to the Greco-Roman gods are Tulkas the Strong, who shares many characteristics with the Greek strongman Heracles, or the Roman Hercules, and Orome the Hunter, who bears a partial resemblance to the Greek hero and huntsman Orion. The Norse dimension. And at the top we can see this very dramatic illustration of Vada Elentari. Although the influence of the Greco-Roman gods is most obvious in terms of the hierarchical structure and attributes of Tolkien's Valerian pantheon, in appearance and temperament, the Valar and Maiar have far more in common with the gods of Northern Europe, or the Norsemen and other Germanic peoples. A wild and dark sense of doom pervades Norse mythology, making it seem far removed from the sunlit Mediterranean world of the Greek and Roman gods, among whom, despite their fits of jealousy and rage, reigns a certain spirit of wisdom and reason. By contrast, the heroes of Norse myth and most of the heroes of Tolkien's tales share a philosophy of stoic fatalism and a stubborn code of personal honour that, usually, encourages the pursuit of a fearless warrior's death. Both the Norse heroes and Tolkien's heroes await a doom wherein a supreme cataclysm will end the world. There is the great conflict of elemental forces that the Vikings call Ragnarok and Tolkien called the world's end. Tolkien's vision of the world's end is deliberately veiled, but there are clear similarities between the Viking Ragnarok and Tolkien's cataclysmic great battle in the War of Wrath. Ragnarok will be a battle between the gods and the giants, and will commence when Heimdall, the watchman of the gods, blows his horn. Similarly, Tolkien's disastrous great battle begins with a trumpet blast from Eonwi the herald of the Valar. Tolkien's inspiration is drawn from a far wider range of sources than a brief comparison of cosmologies might suggest. However, the influence of Norse myth in the shaping of Tolkien's world is deep and undeniable. One might begin by looking at the complex nature of the king of the Norse gods and comparing him to Tolkien's Manwë, the king of the Valar. Manwë, the lord of the air, is, of course, far more obviously similar to the Olympian Zeus. However, he does share some of the characteristics of the Norse king of the gods in his guise as Valda Vagnbrotar, or ruler of heaven. Both Manwë and Odin are stern, grey-bearded and of gigantic size, and both wear blue mantle cloaks. Both are considered the wisest and most terrifying of the gods. Manwë, the king of the Valar and Maiar, is enthroned on Tanakkit, the highest mountain in the world, from where his all-seeing eyes can survey the entire world. Odin, as king of the Aesir, is enthroned on Hildskjalf, the watchtower of the gods in Asgard, where his single all-seeing eye can stare out over the 9 worlds. In Njord, the Norse god of the sea, we have a reasonable match with Tolkien's Ulmo, the lord of waters, whose rise from the deep is announced by the sounding of the Ulumuri, his great conch shell horn. Among the Maiar spirits who serve Ulmo are Ossa of the waves and his spouse, Unan of the calms. These two had counterparts in the lesser Norse sea god Aegir and the sea goddess Ran. There are some general comparisons between Vada Elentari, spouse of Manwë, and the Norse spouse of Odin, the Aesir goddess Frigg, who is frequently identified with the Vanavort goddess Freya, the spouse of Thor. But neither of these is a sky deity like Vada, whose epithet Elentari means star queen in Kenya. Nor did Norse mythology really have a smith god comparable to Tolkien's Aula, whom the dwarves call Mahal, or the Maker, as it was he who conceived their race. However, Norse myths do have the dwarf smith Brokkr, who was called upon to forge the weapons and tools of the gods. In addition, there is another legendary mortal king and hero named Volander, who also was known as Wayland the Smith. The realms of the dead in Tolkien's tales and Norse myths are as different from one another as are their rulers. Mandos the Doomsman was the stern but benign lord of the halls of awaiting, while the Norse ruler of the misty underworld of Niflheim was Hel, a frightening goddess whose subjects were those who died of sickness and disease. The Valyrian hero Tulkas the Strong has a partial counterpart in the Norse god Magni the Strong, the son of Thor, the thunder god. Then there is Orome, the huntsman of the Valar, who rides like the wind through the forests of Arda while blowing his hunting horn, the Valaroma. Orome was almost certainly partly inspired by the terrifying Woden or Wotan, lord of the wild hunt, another guise of the great god Odin. I'm going to pause there for now. I just want to show you, not only do we have these images on these 2 pages, and that's Ola Mahal and Yavanna Kementari. We also have Ulmo, Lord of the Waters, in a full colour illustration. You can see there's the horn that was talked about earlier. That's all for today. I hope that you're enjoying my reading from this book and that you're finding it interesting, or at least also relaxing. And I'll be doing another one shortly.